Bleach meets Naruto, the mad scientist who revolutionized shinobi warfare. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 71. Live demonstration, limb reattachment. Two halves. Is there really such a technique? If it weren't for the third Hokage's repeated assurances, and the fact that the developers of the technique were the famous Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru-sama, he would never have believed it. Even so, now Kotaro is still half believing and half doubting. But despite his doubts, Kotaro agreed to participate in the experiment. He longed to be healthy again. Not long after, Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru entered with the first batch of 7 students. Is that the first batch of people for the technique? The elimination rate is as high as 50%. I heard that many people couldn't bear the intensity of learning and automatically applied to withdraw. Is it so scary? Yes, just look at a blood-equipped technique and you will know how huge the knowledge involved is. Everyone stared at this group of students and whispered. Soon, Nara Shintaku stood up and gave a speech as usual. Everyone shut up when they heard it. Listen quietly. I don't like to talk nonsense, so let's get started. Nara Shintaku said slowly, Teacher Orochimaru and I have jointly developed a life shell creation technique. It took 7 months, which is the longest time we have spent on developing ninjutsu. But the results also surprised us. These words made everyone present show strange expressions. 7 months? The longest time? They couldn't help but twitch their eyes when they heard it. You know, for many ninjas, the time to develop human ninjutsu is calculated in years. It starts from 3 to 5 years, and it may be more than 10 or 20 years. Some even take a generation, or even several generations. This is the normal time to develop ninjutsu. The 7 months between you and Orochimaru are simply outrageous. A few days ago, you took out a new 850 technique, which is even more outrageous. The principle of this technique is to use yin-yang escape to artificially create limbs, and then connect them to the body of the jonin through medical surgery. Nara Shintaku paused and smiled. It sounds simple, doesn't it? Simple? The corners of everyone's eyes twitched even more. You seem to be making me laugh. There is not a single word in your sentence that is not outrageous. But it is a bit difficult to implement. Nara Shintaku continued, so Orochimaru and I split this technique into 3 sub-projects, namely yin-yang escape, 3-dimensional structure diagram of limbs, regression equation of limb volume and body shape. And the first batch of 15 students in the technical department were divided into 3 groups of 5 people, participated in the research of 3 sub-projects respectively. Nara Shintaku briefly mentioned the situation of the students. Just 1 sentence. The eyes of the ninjas present lit up. Have you participated in the development of new techniques? Sure enough, joining the technical department is the right thing to do. It's worth the favor I spent. Damn it, my brat actually said he couldn't hold on and quit. Fortunately, my kid stayed. The situation of the technical development department is highly confidential. Even the students who quit will not be able to remove the seal and curse, and they cannot reveal a word to the outside world. Even parents and brothers cannot tell. Therefore, people outside are very curious about the situation of the students in the technical department. This time, I finally understood some of the situation. Our students spent half a year collecting a lot of data and completed the tasks of 3 projects excellently. This process is very hard and requires learning a lot of things, but they did it. Let's give them some applause, okay? Nara Shintaku was the first to applaud. Seeing this, the others followed suit. For a moment, the applause in the ward was thunderous, and it surged towards the 7 students who persisted to the end. They couldn't help but blush and look excited. The ninjas present were all seniors with high positions. As small newcomers, how could they have ever received applause from their seniors? They were all very excited. A strong sense of pride emerged in their hearts. This is all brought to me by the technical department, they all thought at the same time. Isn't this chicken soup too skillful? Orochimaru was also applauding, but he couldn't help but complain in his heart. He looked at the students who were excited by the applause. He thought that if he asked them to work overtime all night for 7 days, they would probably be exhausted. Okay, let's get back to this life shell creation technique. Nara Shintaku casually sprinkled a bowl of chicken soup, and then brought the content of the speech back to the whole. Everyone's expression became more serious after hearing this. No one dared to offend Nara Shintaku's words. Take today's volunteer, Mr. Kotaro, as an example. Nara Shintaku looked at Kotaro. Everyone's eyes fell on Kotaro. Kotaro was stared at by everyone, and he couldn't help but straighten his back and sit up straight. Mr. Kotaro lost his right leg. If we want to use the life shell creation technique, we first need to use the regression equation to calculate the length, size, shape, etc. of the right leg. Of course, because Mr. Kotaro's left leg is still there, it can be simply mirrored and copied without too much tedious calculations. After calculating the data, we will move on to the next step, making a picture. Nara Shintaku continued. Everyone held their breath and listened very seriously. This technique was completely beyond their cognition. Although they have just started listening, there are already many places that have opened their eyes. The so-called drawing is to make a three-dimensional image of the calculated right leg model. The image includes the distribution of muscle groups, the direction of blood vessels, the veins of nerves, the location of chakra meridians, the size of bones, etc. All these things must be drawn in advance. Wow! As soon as Nara Shintaku finished speaking, there was an uproar. Everyone couldn't help but show a surprised expression. Blood vessels? Nerves? Muscles? All these things are drawn? Can it really be done? Nonsense, didn't you hear that it took half a year to collect data? No wonder this technique took Shintaku 7 months. Incredible, it actually completely mastered the composition of the human body, no wonder it is called life shell creation technique. Everyone couldn't help but whisper. Originally, with their cultivation, they could be able to remain motionless in all directions. However, the three-dimensional image mentioned by Nara Shintaku deeply stimulated their nerves. Let them have a thrilling feeling of approaching the forbidden zone of life and exploring the taboo. He really did it. Behind the crowd, a light flashed in Tsunade's eyes, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. Eh? Mikoto couldn't help looking at this sister Tsunade, and complained in her heart, how can you be like a little girl in love, blindly trusting? Mikoto didn't care about the technique that Nara Shintaku had come up with. She only cared about Tsunade's situation. After all, one of the conditions agreed upon at the beginning was to help Nara Shintaku stabilize the rear. My information seems to be wrong. Mikoto looked at Tsunade thoughtfully, thinking secretly, this sister Tsunade might be the easiest one to deal with, far away. The third Hokage was surprised, his mouth opened wide, and he said, have you analyzed the structure of the legs? In addition to the legs, you must have analyzed more parts of the human body, right, Shintaku, Orochimaru? So, can you really create a body? Just after he finished speaking, the third Hokage was shocked by his own thoughts. He took a deep breath and turned to look at Orochimaru on the other side. Orochimaru sensed his gaze and turned his head back with a smile. This smile was gentle and calm. But it made the third Hokage feel frightened. Orochimaru didn't smile like this before. His smile always contained negativity and pessimism, which was related to his childhood experience. But now, I can't find a trace of gloom in this smile. The third Hokage was shocked. He suddenly had a feeling that he had lost control of this disciple without realizing it. Although Orochimaru had contact with Danzo before. However, it was still within his expectations. But after Orochimaru and Danzo made a break, the third Hokage found that he couldn't understand this disciple. No. The third Hokage narrowed his eyes and suddenly remembered something. It was after accepting Shintaku as a disciple, Orochimaru changed. It was as if he had started another life. The third Hokage was shocked and puzzled. Next to him, Jiraiya also opened his mouth wide, shocked by Nara Shintaku's explanation. Such a technique to analyze the human body, is it really correct? If you can analyze limbs and create limbs today, won't you be able to transform the human body and life at will tomorrow? Jiraiya felt uneasy for no reason. Because this kind of artificial analysis and creation does not conform to the evolution of nature. It violates the original philosophy of harmonious coexistence between man and nature. But if humans do not explore themselves, they cannot move forward, let alone go to the sea of stars. And if Nara Shintaku were to answer, he would calmly tell Jiraiya that the answer had already been given in his previous life. Humans are the product of nature. Therefore, what humans do is a form of natural evolution. When we have finished the three-dimensional design drawing, we can officially start creating. Use yin-yang escape to create biological tissues such as blood vessels, nerves, bones, etc. Now, let's demonstrate it on the spot. Nara Shintaku said. Everyone stopped talking and looked at Changchen with surprise. Nara Shintaku waved his hand. 7 students came forward to check Kotoro's body, calculate the regression equation, and construct the three-dimensional design drawing of the right leg. Their movements were very skillful. It took only half an hour to draw the picture. Then, Orochimaru walked over to take a look, quickly calculated in his mind, and modified some defects at will. Nara Shintaku also stepped forward. He pretended to make seals with his hands and used yin-yang technique to create a brand new right leg. Swish! In an instant, everyone's eyes widened. They stared at the right leg closely with horror. It was actually created? What a profound yin-yang technique. Is this already at the level of the legendary Sage of Six Paths? Will that leg be installed on Shunin? Hiss, I seem to be witnessing history. Kotaro was also shocked. He carefully reached out and touched the right leg created by yin-yang technique. The touch was strange. There was a familiar and strange feeling. Are you ready? Orochimaru prepared the anesthetic and put on the surgical goggles. I'm going to start the operation. Yes. Kotaro took a deep breath and nodded vigorously. Puff, the needle pierced the skin and the anesthetic was pushed in. The people around were watching nervously, not daring to miss a single thing. The anesthetic took effect quickly. Orochimaru picked up the scalpel and cut open Kotaro's healed right leg fracture with ease, and accurately cut open the adhesion inside. Separate the original nerves, blood vessels, ligaments, meridians. Then. He was like the most skilled craftsman in the world, accurately assembling the joints, threading the needle, and suturing the incision from the inside out. These movements appeared in Orochimaru's hands, as smooth as an art performance. Orochimaru, when did he become so skilled in medical ninjutsu? Tsunade's face changed slightly. This suturing technique even surpassed hers. Sister Tsunade? Mikoto looked at Tsunade with surprise in her eyes. This sister, doesn't she have hemophobia? How dare she look directly at the operation scene? She didn't know that the existence of Nara Shintaku had subtly relieved Tsunade's psychological pressure. She could now watch others perform surgery. Okay. Orochimaru finished the suturing and used medical ninjutsu to heal most of the wound. The reason why it was not completely healed. Because the process of wound recovery is also the process of Kotaro assimilating this right leg. After all, this leg is not Kotaro's in essence, but an external object. You can stand up now, stand up and take a look. Orochimaru smiled encouragingly. Really? Kotaro's face was happy, and he carefully stepped his right foot gently on the ground. Instantly. A long-lost feeling came to my heart. His eyes were filled with tears. It had been a long time since he had felt so down to earth. Kotaro no longer hesitated and exerted his strength again. He stood up. In front of everyone, the man who had lost his right leg stood up again. Wow, it's a miracle, no. A miracle. It actually created a leg out of thin air and reattached it. It's incredible. It's invaluable. Those disabled ninjas can have a complete life again. The ninjas watching were all shocked. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that there was really a technique to reattach limbs. This is completely the realm of God. Mitaku and Orochimaru have surprised us again. The third Hokage said with emotion. Yes, Jiraiya had to nod in agreement, looking at Kotaro in shock. The happiness of walking again was overflowing on Kotaro's face. 3.5 seemed to be reborn. Exuding amazing vitality. This technique can heal the wounds left by war. Jiraiya said in a deep voice, Misato and Orochimaru, their names will definitely be remembered by future generations. Just like the first Hokage. It was recorded in the textbooks of the ninja school, so that generations of children can learn it. Even Jiraiya. Having to admit the importance of this technique in treatment. It is not as simple as reconnecting limbs. It can save a person's life. Save a ninja's career. Everyone, don't get excited, now please look at our students. Nara Shintaku spoke, attracting everyone's attention. He motioned to everyone to look at the students on the side. The 7 students were also looking at Kotaro excitedly, shocked by the effect of this technique. When they heard Nara Shintaku's voice, they were all stunned. Our students have also mastered a lot of knowledge of this life shell creation technique. In the near future, they will also be able to reattach new limbs to disabled ninjas like me and teacher Orochimaru. Nara Shintaku paused here. Of course, the difficulty of this technique is very great. The starting point is S level. The students are unlikely to master this technique independently. It takes 3 to 5 people to work together to complete a reattachment operation. This is somewhat regrettable. Regret? No, no, no. The people present did not feel regretful at all. Instead, they were even more excited. This technique is extremely difficult to see with the naked eye. Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru can master it because of their extraordinary talents. What should other people with average talent do? Episode 72, Konoha vs. Rock Shinobi. Konoha Shinobi becomes fearless. Could it be that such an important technique, after being developed, no one can learn it and has to be shelved? What is the point of developing it? So, when they heard Nara Shintaku say that 3 or 5 students can complete the follow-up surgery together, everyone was very excited. It's enough to complete the follow-up surgery. Yes, let alone 3 or 5 people, even 3 or 5,000 people will be fine. We are more worried that this technique cannot be learned. The number of people is not a problem at all. For a moment, everyone looked at the students around them with a fiery look. This is the person who may save their careers. This surgical demonstration was very successful. Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru successfully threw the bag out, and the village's attention was focused on the first batch of students. A few days later, outside Konoha village, deep in the forest, a barrier was erected. In the barrier, 8 huge snake heads slowly raised up, revealing a wise look. Finally completed, my body. Haha, I have also gotten rid of the curse and started sage transformation. Nara clan. Nara Shintaku's home. The barrier that isolates perception is erected, blocking the inside and outside. In the barrier, Nara Shintaku sat cross-legged, and a crowned shadow slowly appeared on his head. At the same time, his body flickered between reality and illusion. Swoosh! Suddenly, a layer of something like a plant filament network peeled off from his body and turned into nothingness. At this moment, a new gem appeared on the crown of the soul, with the color of emerald embedded in front. Perfect person, you have become a human being at the concept level. You have extremely high resistance to all external things, including but not limited to energy, toxins, will, rules, time and space, etc. You will receive a small amount of luck blessing in all human civilizations. Nara Shintaku slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were golden and silver, 2 kinds of light interlaced and radiant. A strong and pure natural energy emanated from him. Chakra, removed cleanly. 22-inch, this life shell creation technique is really good. Not only can it uproot the chakra seeds, but it can also create a body that adapts to the violent natural energy according to the current environment. Nara Shintaku murmured, with a smile on his lips. He took a light breath. Suddenly, like a whale sucking water, the surrounding natural energy poured back, forming an invisible hole, rushing into Nara's body. Now he can directly absorb violent natural energy with the power of his body. Is this the path of the ancient immortals? Nara Shintaku narrowed his eyes thoughtfully, looked around, and said to himself, I seem to be able to affect an area with a radius of 50 meters. The energy flow, energy properties, energy activity, etc. in this area are all controlled by me. I seem to know what the strange land is. Developing the life shell creation technique. Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru both gained something. However, the two chose different paths. Orochimaru abandoned his human body and turned into the legendary evil beast Yamata no Orochi. Now Orochimaru, Yamata no Orochi, is the real body. The human body has become a disguise. And Nara Shintaku removed the chakra in his body and embarked on the native practice path of this planet. Of course, in a sense. The Otsutsuki clan is a group of immortals who have successfully practiced. Chakra, in the final analysis, is also natural energy. At the same time, the border between the land of fire and the land of earth. The war between Konoha and Rock Shinobi has begun. In the Rock Shinobi camp, a square-faced young man with a beard and a red headscarf is looking at the information in his hand carefully. As he looks at it, the young man frowns. At the same time, the Rock Shinobi jonin around are also looking at the same information. They all frown at the same time. Nara Shintaku? Has Konoha produced a ninjutsu development genius? At the age of 7, he has improved a large number of ninjutsu and raised Konoha's overall strength to a higher level. What an amazing talent. No wonder Sand Shinobi lost so quickly. The jonin whispered. Since they started fighting, they have been actively collecting intelligence. To this day, the existence of Nara Shintaku has been confirmed. And it is known that this Nara Shintaku has developed and improved many ninjutsu and is a genius with extremely high ninjutsu talent. Another Senju Tobarama? After reading the intelligence, Huangtu snorted. The Senju Tobarama back then was also so amazing and developed many ninjutsu and forbidden technique. But didn't he die in the end? After all, war is still about the number of people and determination. Hearing this, the jonin present nodded in agreement. The brilliant Senju Tobarama also died in the pursuit of Cloud Shinobi. Don't worry about him. Huangtu closed the intelligence and said calmly, our mission is to defeat Konoha's ninja troops on the front battlefield. This is not a difficult task. Although Konoha has improved techniques, our people dare to fight and fight. The harsh environment of the land of earth has tempered our will and physique, and Konoha's ninjas are a group of delicate flowers growing in a greenhouse. How can they have seen the harsh wind and frost? Huangtu glanced around while speaking. The jonin present, both men and women, all have simple faces, rough as soil and strong as cows. The environment of the land of earth is a bit like the Lus Plateau. Soil erosion is serious. The difficult living environment has shaped a group of tenacious ninjas. Lord Huangtu is right. How can those pretty boys in Konoha be our opponents? If I don't look carefully, I can't tell whether they are men or women. One of our people can defeat 2 of them. Rock Shinobi has a rock-hard power buried in his body. The jonin were moved by Huangtu's words. Konoha village has the will of fire. Awakens also copied it and created a will of stone. I have to say that the effect is quite good. Awakens' cohesion is second only to Konoha among the 5 hidden villages. Haha, I feel relieved to see that you are so motivated. Huangtu's expression eased a little, showing a gentle smile, and said, don't worry too much, Konoha needs to divide its troops to be vigilant against Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi. They can't deal with our attack with all their strength. As long as we win once, Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi will hear the news and join us in besieging Konoha. When the time comes, we will definitely bite off a piece of meat from Konoha. Ah. The Jonin clenched their fists in excitement. The next day, Rock Shinobi took the initiative to attack. 6 squadrons set out at the same time and rushed straight to Konoha's camp. Go. Kill. Kill Konoha. Charge together. Go to hell. The shouts of killing suddenly resounded across the land. In the distance, Yellow Earth stood in a slightly higher position and smiled. Konoha will definitely not expect that we will launch such a decisive attack. This is the strength of Rock Shinobi. We are not afraid of challenges. The several ninjas who followed around nodded one after another. They also think so. The ninjas of Konoha generally have a psychological resistance to war. This greatly affects morale on the battlefield. But their Rock Shinobi are different. They are eager to fight, eager to kill, and eager to bite off a piece of fat from Konoha. Father, you will receive my good news tonight. Huangtu thought to himself. He is the 3rd Tsuchikage, the son of Onoki. Because of this identity, he served as the leader of the camp at a young age and was responsible for the task of attacking Konoha. Kill. Suddenly, an excited shout rang out on the battlefield. Duh? Huangtu was stunned for a moment and looked at it intently. The surrounding ninjas also looked at it in surprise. Where did the shouting and killing sound come from? As soon as they looked over, Huangtu and others were stunned, their mouths opened wide in surprise. Kill. I saw teams of Konoha shinobi rushing out of the camp, like a torrent, crashing into the Rock Shinobi ninjas. The ninjas of both sides fought each other in an instant. Ninja toots, petty. The 2 sides fought to the death, refusing to retreat. Like wild beasts, they fought each other madly. What's going on? Huangtu was shocked and showed a blank expression. When did the people of Konoha become so fearless? The surrounding ninjas were also confused. They were avoiding the war a few days ago. They don't want to start a war. Don't they still want to negotiate with us? They were completely confused. At the same time, in the Konoha camp, a group of Konoha Jonin looked at each other with emotion. This life shell creation technique is incredible. Mataku-kun, you have developed something incredible. With this technique, the ninjas below have fewer concerns. Yes, everyone is eager to fight. Everyone wants to fight to the death on the battlefield in exchange for merit and wealth. Everyone looked at each other, some of them didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Obviously, they wanted peace, and a few days ago, they were considering peace talks with Awakens. But after Konoha received a message announcing the life shell creation technique, the ninjas' atmosphere immediately changed. Become eager for war. It's understandable. It's no big deal to die, right? Yes, as long as you're not dead, and you have no arms or legs, the village will help you get new ones. There are only 2 endings, either death or wealth. For the people below, there is a 50% probability that they can bet their lives. Don't talk about them, I want to fight too. The Jonin of Konoha said, smiling one after another. They know. This battle, Konoha will win. First, the improved ninjutsu improved the overall strength, then the life shell manufacturing technique eliminated worries and boosted morale. The Rock Shinobi people couldn't resist at all. Just as they expected. On the battlefield, the ninjas of Konoha and Rock Shinobi were in a brief stalemate. Crashed. The Rock Shinobi troops were penetrated. Like a piece of thin paper, it was torn apart fiercely. The assault troops of Konoha, with a blue light like electronic inscriptions on their bodies, stepped on the air, like a spear, and stabbed straight at the Rock Shinobi camp. Not good, Lord Huangtu, retreat quickly. Huangtu, who was watching the battle, was protected by the surrounding ninjas and left. And on the battlefield, the morale of Rock Shinobi's troops collapsed instantly. Not everyone is fearless. Even the will of stone cannot make everyone sacrifice their lives. When their own troops were penetrated and completely fell behind, the ninjas of Rock Shinobi fell into collapse. Not good, we lost. The people of Konoha are too strong. Run away. There is no way to fight. If we stay here, we will only become cannons. The ninjas of Rock Shinobi, starting with the genin, gave up the fight out of fear and turned to flee. Not long after, the Rock Shinobi troops were defeated and retreated. Fortunately, Konoha's troops also suffered heavy losses, because they forcibly penetrated the rock shinobi and suffered many casualties. On the battlefield, there were countless body parts and corpses left. Blood flowed all over the ground. Far away, Huang Tu retreated to a safe place, looking at the battlefield with blood flowing, his eyes twitching wildly. Is Konoha crazy? At least 50% of them have become seriously injured and lost their combat effectiveness. In order to break through our troops, they are willing to sacrifice so much. Huang Tu fell into great confusion. He couldn't figure it out, just for a small victory, pay such a big price? It's not profitable at all. Is Konoha's leader crazy? Lord Huang Tu, the troops are almost gathered. A rock shinobi ninja ran over and whispered. Huang Tu suppressed the doubts in his heart and nodded slowly, I know. He stared at the battlefield full of hands and feet for the last time. Turned back to the tent in Camp 040. The mobility of ninjas can quickly evacuate the battlefield even if one side is defeated. Therefore, although Konoha's strong attack this time seems to have broken through the rock shinobi's troops, it is actually not profitable. Killing 1,000 enemies directly increases 800. The 800 who lost themselves were a large number of seriously injured soldiers. According to the usual battlefield practice, the seriously injured were a burden and could not provide any combat power, so they could only be sent back to the village headquarters in the rear. Because of the life shell creation technique, the logic of the battlefield has changed repeatedly. Quick, quick, quick. Stop the bleeding. Use battlefield first aid techniques, don't worry about infection and disability. Just save your life. Those with half of their limbs will be cut off directly from the joints. Don't worry about disability, we will replace them with new ones after we go back. On the battlefield. After winning the victory, the ninjas of Konoha did not choose to reap the fruits of victory, but immediately started first aid for their fallen colleagues. Because of the existence of the blood suit technique, all Konoha shinobi consciously began to learn medical ninjutsu. Therefore, after the battle, everyone can be used as half a medical ninja. Not long after, up to 80% of the seriously injured were first aided and brought back to the camp. In the camp, there are real medical ninjas who have been waiting for a long time. The moment to witness the miracle has begun. In the ward, countless ninjas watched with wide eyes, excited. Limb reattachment surgery started overnight. Tisk, Konoha's people are injured. It's obvious that continuing to pursue can cause us greater losses. Why bother with those seriously injured? They have lost their hands and feet, and they are all a group of worthless cripples. There is no value in treating them. The jonin of rock shinobi looked at the first aid on the battlefield from a distance, with disdain on their faces. Of course. They will not say this in public. Okay, everyone take your positions. Huang Tu said in a low voice, with a serious face. Yes. A group of jonin took their seats and erected isolation knots. In the main tent, Huang Tu spoke slowly and said, although Konoha won a small victory over us today, it has little impact on the situation. This kind of desperate fight will not happen again. They have so many seriously injured soldiers, and the price they paid is no less than ours. The rock shinobi jonin nodded when they heard this. They also made the same judgment. So, I plan to rest for 3 days and launch a second assault. Huang Tu said in a deep voice. The jonin heard this and fell into deep thought. Their eyes flickered, and they were calculating the gains and losses in their hearts. After a while, the rock shinobi jonin nodded one by one. I agree, Konoha will definitely not be able to withstand the second assault. That's what we should do. They don't have so many people to resist our attack. Those seriously injured soldiers will seriously hinder their actions. Everyone agreed. Episode 73, Second Defeat, Breaking into Rock Shinobi's Camp. 2 halves, okay. Huang Tu was overjoyed and said immediately, then let's set it for the morning of 3 days later. The main force will come together and we will flatten Konoha's camp. Ah. Everyone was full of fighting spirit. Konoha village. Nara Shintaku went to the dungeon and looked at Yitsong's situation. The other party had an indifferent face and had no reaction to his arrival, not even looking at him. This made Nara Shintaku very satisfied. Mikoto did a good job, he turned and left the prison. However, he didn't notice that Yitsong in the prison was watching his back with his eyes, and his eyes were dim. Leaving the prison, Nara Shintaku was in the technical department, casually flipping through the frontline reports with Orochimaru. In 3 days, 40 people completed 234 reattachment operations. A total of 357 limbs were reattached. Some people lost more than one limb. The success rate of the operation is as high as 90%. The failures are all minor problems. They can be sent back to the village to adjust the nerves and blood vessels. This is the record of the operation completed by Konoha in the battlefield against Rock Shinobi, using the life shell to create technique. It was sent back to Konoha's technical department as soon as possible. Nara Shintaku listened and nodded slightly. The first batch of students has been successfully put to use. In the technical department, Obito stayed behind and also performed reattachment operations in the hospital. Orochimaru paused and picked up another report. His team completed 153 operations in 3 days and reattached 452 limbs. The number of operations is small, but the reattached limb parts are more. He can already use yin-yang escape to create ears, eyes, noses, and other small organs. Nara was slightly surprised. I didn't expect Hirako to progress so fast. Our arrangement is correct. Nara thought for a moment and said, yes. Orochimaru nodded, looked at Nara with admiration, and said, the trainees sent to the front line only need to complete the functional connection, while the trainees who stay in the village need to be fine-tuned and delve into the direction of organs. Then rotate regularly. Through the rotation system, they can both master knowledge and gain experience. This rotation system is very ingenious. It can train a group of available talents in the shortest time. At the same time, it retains the potential of talents. Orochimaru had to sigh again in his heart. As expected of an old monster, he has an amazingly deep understanding of the organizational system. If Nara Shintaku heard this, he would only smile faintly. It's just a rotation of departments. In the previous life, hospitals have long been universal. He just modified it and used it on ninjas. We can put this technique aside with confidence. Orochimaru closed the report, looked at Nara Shintaku expectantly, and asked, recently, do you have any new ideas? Soon. Nara Shintaku replied. While speaking, he glanced at the system panel. Current template, Kurotsuchi Mayuri, development progress, 48%, developed technologies, blood armor technique, dynamic blood armor and static blood armor, flying sickle technique, exclusive sage mode, yin-yang release, Kidō, soul activation apotheosis technique, soul weapon forging technique, bloodline limit development technique, life shell creation technique. It's only a little bit away from 50%. I'll get the stage reward soon. I'm looking forward to it. Orochimaru smiled and turned to leave with the report. Nara Shintaku also walked out of the technical department. As for the border of the Land of Fire, the war between Konoha and Rock Shinobi? Neither of them cared. They didn't take it seriously at all. Border. It was already 3 days later. Kill. The shouts of killing were deafening and rushed straight into the sky. On the plain. A group of Rock Shinobi ninjas, wearing brown vests, roared and rushed towards the Konoha camp. On the Konoha side. There was also a large group of ninjas, wearing green vests, also rushing towards Rock Shinobi. One brown and one green. It was like two torrents, fiercely colliding with each other. Ding ding ding. Bang. Bang bang. Ninja tools flying everywhere, ninjutsu bombing, detonating tags triggered. The chaotic battle took place simultaneously in every corner of the battlefield. People on both sides rushed to my land to fight. TXT. Huang Tu's face changed, and his eyes were filled with panic. It shouldn't be like this. Why don't Konoha's people give in? They have so many seriously injured people, why do they fight us head-on? The jonin around Huang Tu also changed their faces. They looked up and saw that the Konoha shinobi were fighting fearlessly like they did 3 days ago. Did Konoha get reinforcements? Impossible, our people have been monitoring, there are no reinforcements. Why is this happening? Where did they get the manpower? What did Konoha promise? Why are their people willing to fight to the death? The jonin of Rock Shinobi felt uneasy. Their eyes fell on the center of the battlefield at the same time. There. An Uchiha ninja with flying hair and holding a ninja sword laughed and fought with 2 Rock Shinobi. The posture was crazy, like a madman. Ha ha ha, come. Cut my neck. This is the only way to kill me. This Uchiha ninja laughed wildly, his pair of 3 Tomo Sharingan, scarlet and scary. Opposite. The 2 Rock Shinobi couldn't help but feel cold in their hearts. Madman. Brain-sick guy. The 2 Rock Shinobi cursed in a low voice. Bang. Bang. They collided, the kunai and the ninja sword collided violently. After several confrontations, the Uchiha ninja's ninja sword was overwhelmed and completely shattered. But he didn't care, still slashing with the short sword to cut the opposite ninja. Puff. 1 Rock Shinobi was cut in the eye by him, and the other was kicked by him and broke his ribs. He himself was not feeling well. The right hand was broken at the wrist, and the tendons of the left foot were cut. The whole person was disabled. Didn't I tell you that you have to chop my neck to kill me? The Uchiha ninja grinned, revealing his bloody white teeth. This smile made the 2 Rock Shinobi shiver. No one wanted to fight a crazy man who didn't care about his life. The two rock shinobi looked at each other, threw out the detonating talisman and smoke bomb in tacit understanding, took the opportunity to leave, and found other enemies. Tisk, hand. The Uchiha ninja sneered and shouted at the backs of the two people, "My name is Uchiha Shindo, remember it. Next time we meet, I will kill you too. I mean what I say." TSK. The two rock shinobi who escaped, without even looking back, sneered. Next time? Dream on. People like you who have lost your right hand and left foot are already useless. It is impossible to appear on the battlefield again. Similar situations appear in every corner of the battlefield. The rock shinobi ninjas were horrified to find that the Konoha shinobi didn't care about the consequences of disability, even if their hands and feet were cut off and their eyes were blinded. They would fight to leave injuries on them. Are you crazy? Why are the guys from Konoha fighting so hard? Aren't they afraid of death? Damn it, I don't want to fight with a bunch of lunatics. Unconsciously, the morale of the rock shinobi was lost. They were afraid. Because the ninjas of Konoha fought harder and harder than them. Soon, the rock shinobi troops were defeated. The second attack also failed. Asshole. Huang Tu watched from a distance and kicked a big tree next to him angrily. Why? Why are the people of Konoha fighting so hard? Why don't our people dare to fight? Huang Tu roared in anger. No one answered. The jonin around him looked at him with flickering eyes. After a long time, a jonin with rich experience said, "Huang Tu, now that things have come to this, let's consider the next battle." There is a next time? Huang Tu raised his head and glared at the person who spoke. "Senior, look at the situation on the battlefield. Our people were defeated head-on. The loss of morale, personnel, and supplies is more serious than the last time. Do you have the ability to launch a third battle?" Facing Huang Tu's stare, this jonin didn't care and said calmly, "Don't we still have these people?" "What do you mean?" Huang Tu frowned. "They are powerful jonin. How can they be dispatched casually?" "Sir Huang Tu, the rock shinobi brigade you lead has combat requirements." This jonin said lightly, "We need to break through the Konoha camp and force Konoha's defense line to retreat 3 kilometers. Now the people are dead, and the combat mission is not completed. Do you think you don't have to take responsibility?" After saying this, Huang Tu's face changed, and a chill ran down his back. He subconsciously looked at other people. But he saw other jonin looking at him indifferently. "Sir Huang Tu, you don't want to run away from the battle, do you? Even if you are the son of the third generation, you can't escape responsibility. Awakens, someone is needed to complete the combat mission. Please lead the charge yourself. As a ninja, you should have been aware of death." One by one, the jonin stared at Huang Tu with sharp eyes. Huang Tu's heart trembled, his face became ugly, and he said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, I'm not a person who runs away from the battlefield." "That's the best." The previous senior jonin nodded. At night, the second battle ended. Both rock shinobi and Konoha took a truce to rest. But the atmosphere on both sides was completely different. On the rock shinobi side, there was widespread grief and a low mood. "My hand hurts so much. Medicine, I need painkillers. What are the people above thinking? They have ordered us to lose twice." "Yeah, they knew that the people of Konoha were crazy, but they still let us attack head-on. Are they asking us to die? Damn you, I'm afraid you didn't become the commander because of your relationship with the third generation. If the next battle is still like this, Lousy would rather defect." "Yes, I'll defect too." The ninjas of rock shinobi had bad expressions. A strong resistance has been formed. Any jonin who passed by received their cold scrutiny. The former hierarchy, status, and identity have all lost their effect. Many jonin felt nervous and did not dare to stay, and hurriedly left. After 2 consecutive defeats, the atmosphere in the camp was like a powder keg, which could explode at any time. No one dared to offend the people below at this time. In the main tent. "Haven't you found out yet?" Huang Tu looked anxious, his eyes sharp as a knife, staring at Umbu in front of him and asked, "How long has it been? Still don't know why Konoha shinobi are so fearless? Did Sarutobi Hiruzen promise something?" Since the second Hokage founded Umbu, other hidden villages have also founded their own Umbu. Faced with Huang Tu's questioning, Umbu sighed helplessly and replied, "Before, the people of Sand Shinobi used spies on a large scale after losing. A lot of our people were also cleared out by Konoha. What should we do now?" Huang Tu asked anxiously. "I can only ask you to collect more intelligence on the battlefield." Umbu said. "Damn it." Huang Tu clenched his fists. "If I can collect intelligence on the battlefield, do I need you to spy on the rear?" Just about to say something else. Wow. Outside the tent, there was a sudden sound of ninja tools. "What's going on?" Huang Tu's heart tightened, and he hurried out of the tent. It's bad, Master Huang Tu, yes, people attacked us. A ninja ran over and said. Konoha? Huang Tu was stunned, his expression incredible. Are they crazy? There were no casualties during the day. Where did the troops come from to attack us? Boom. Suddenly, a huge explosion occurred hundreds of meters away. A fire dragon stretched out, 100 meters long, releasing terrifying light and heat. The entire camp was illuminated. Fire dragon holding pearl technique. Huang Tu's eyes shrank suddenly. Not good, Konoha really broke in. This technique is one of Ye's improved ninjutsu. It shines brightly on the battlefield. Boom. The fire dragon locked the position of the tent at the first time and spit out the pearl in its mouth. The pearl flew out with a whistle, turning into a huge fireball, like the sun, falling towards Huang Tu. Not good. Earth-style Earth-shore return. Huang Tu's hair stood up, and he quickly formed a seal and slapped his palm on the ground. Umbu next to him and the ninja who came to report the news also cooperated with the technique. The three of them worked together to defend with Earth-style. Bang! The fireball fell, making a deafening explosion. The whole camp shook. Countless people looked at the explosion site in astonishment, some were terrified, and some were ecstatic. Oh no, that's the location of the main tent. Lord Huang Tu. The leader was attacked, what should we do? He won't die. Are we still fighting? This is the reaction of Rock Shinobi. The following is the reaction of Konoha Shinobi. General. The leader of Rock Shinobi was blown to death. Zhao's Zhao, we won. Quick, quick, kill a few of them for merit. Brothers, leave all these Rock Shinobi. The ninjas of Konoha were so excited that their eyes turned red. Capturing the flag in battle has always been the most morale-boosting thing. After the explosion, the main tent became a ruin. 113. But Huang Tu and the two ninjas survived, and they left the place in disgrace. Ahead. The earth wall used to resist the fireball was completely broken and turned into charred stones. Oh, he's not dead. A frivolous voice came from the side. Who? Huang Tu and the other two looked over vigilantly, but the next moment, they looked away and only dared to look with their peripheral vision. It was a pair of scarlet, three-tomo Sharingan. Hey, I found this big fish first, you can't take it. The owner of Sharingan warned the ninjas around him with a bad look. Opog. Accompanied by a burst of laughter. 6 ninjas walked out of the darkness. Whoever kills him will own it. There is no such saying on the battlefield. Whoever helps me get Huang Tu's head, I will give him 1/3 of the credit. I will give him half. One look after another, as if looking at fish on a chopping board, looked at Huang Tu. Huang Tu's face turned black. Do these guys from Konoha really think they can beat him? Get out of here. This is my Uchiha Shinto's favorite, my prey. Whoever dares to steal Laozi will dig up his ancestral grave. Choking. While speaking, the owner of the three-tomo Sharingan drew his sword and rushed forward. The surface of his skin was glowing with a circuit-like azure blue light, and he rushed to Huang Tu in an instant at lightning speed. Move blood suit technique. Seeing this, the others shrugged and found the other two. Since digging up the ancestral grave has been mentioned, they had to give way first, and when Shinto was about to kill Huang Tu, they would try to steal the head. Episode 74, Rock Shinobi is defeated. Konoha actually has a limb reattachment technique. So fast. Huang Tu's face changed drastically, and he subconsciously blocked with both hands. Earth-style Earth Spear technique. Crack. The ninja sword chopped Huang Tu's arm, only cutting the muscle. The blade was stuck on the bone. You reacted quickly, and you even had time to use Earth-style ninjutsu to strengthen your body. Uchiha Shinto laughed jokingly. You. Huang Tu endured the pain and looked at Uchiha Shinto's face, and was suddenly stunned. This Uchiha ninja made him feel familiar. Oh, do you know me? Uchiha Nido dragged the sword slowly, using slow cutting to create more intense pain for Huang Tu. I seem to have seen you somewhere. Huang Tu frowned and looked at Uchiha Shinto, feeling vaguely familiar. No. The next moment, Huang Tu's expression suddenly became surprised, and he said in shock, didn't you have your hands and feet chopped off this morning? He suddenly remembered. In the morning battle, this Uchiha Shinto performed outstandingly and attracted his attention at that time. Huang Tu saw this Uchiha with his own eyes, and his hands and feet were cut off. Why did he appear again intact now? Guess. Uchiha Shinto laughed softly, suddenly abandoned his knife, and the circuit on his body shone brightly. He punched Huang Tu's head. Bang! Huang Tu pulled out an arm to block, and was hit by the huge force and staggered back. The bone of the blocking arm was directly broken. There was a strong stinging pain. What a great strength! Huang Tu's face changed drastically, and he retreated quickly. The next moment, he stopped. The back. It has been blocked by other Konoha shinobi, and these Konoha shinobi also have a circuit-like azure blue light on their bodies. And not far away. The ninja who sent him a message before, and the masked Umbu, have been captured. I surrender. Huang Tu's face was bitter, and he raised his hands. Look into my eyes. Uchiha Shinto stepped forward, his Sharingan glowing scarlet. Huang Tu had no choice but to look directly at Sharingan. Swish. Illusion, Sharingan. Huang Tu's eyes gradually became lost, and he fell into the illusion. The others stepped forward, controlled Huang Tu, and injected drugs that inhibited chakra and physical strength. One night passed. The Konoha shinobi stood excitedly in the rock shinobi camp, knocking down all the tents. Last night's battle was a big win. We won. Ha ha ha, those rock shinobi guys ran away like drowned dogs. After returning, my merits will be enough to exchange for blood equipment technique. I can't do it anymore, and I haven't paid back the advance exchange before. Don't worry, we are so strong, and there will be plenty of opportunities to earn 040 merits in the future. This is all thanks to Shintaku-kun. Yes, everyone has benefited from Shintaku-kun's talent. The ninjas of Konoha were talking with a smile. A happy atmosphere. In contrast, in the cell of Konoha, Huang Tu and several rock shinobi jonin had gloomy expressions and were in a depressed mood. Did you notice, seniors? Huang Tu spoke in a low voice, hoarse, and said, many of those disabled ninjas have returned to the battlefield. They don't seem to be injured. All the lost limbs have been restored. The other jonin heard this and nodded. They also noticed this. This also explains why Konoha has the troops to launch an attack. Because their seriously injured were all rescued. The lost limbs were restored by some unknown method. It seems that Konoha has mastered a technique to restore limbs. Huang Tu said with a twinkling look. The expressions of other jonin also changed. Restore limbs, what a touching word. 9 out of 10 ninjas are at risk of disability. Once you lose your limbs, not only will your career be ruined, but your quality of life will also be greatly reduced. In simple terms, it means losing the runner-up plus being poor. But what if you can restore your limbs? The jonin sighed together. No wonder Konoha's ninjas fight so hard, I finally understand. Yes, if you can recover even if you are disabled, why not fight? Either die happily or fight to win and change your fate, even a fool knows what to do. It's not unfair that we lost. Alas, who let Konoha develop such a powerful technique? The war behind will be difficult. The jonins all looked a little ugly. Huang Tu's face sank. A normal person can understand that this technique of restoring limbs is equivalent to a backup. With a backup, the fighting will and determination of Konoha shinobi will definitely rise to a terrifying level. Not to mention, there are various improved 5-element escape techniques. And that strange technique with skin glowing with circuits, and the body flicker technique that can walk in the air. When Huang Wang thought of these, he felt like buying the sky. How to fight this? Everyone took a breath of cold air. The matter of ninjutsu genius is actually true? Yes, it is this Nara Shintaku. Umbu Ninja nodded, confirming everyone's guess. Anoki also widened his eyes, with a surprised expression. He remembered this Nara Shintaku. But he didn't take it seriously before, because almost every year, there was a so-called celebration group. In addition, the surname Nara means that he was from the Nara clan. As we all know, the Nara clan is not a top-level clan, and the secret techniques inherited are not strong. It requires the cooperation of the 3 clans of Ino Shikacho to have considerable combat effectiveness. So, Anoki didn't take it to heart. But listening to it now, it seems different from what he imagined. This Nara Shintaku seems to be very talented? Specifically? Anoki pinched his eyebrows and asked, Umbu worked all night last night, did you get any specific results? Hearing Anoki's question, the Umbu nodded and replied, there are 3 pieces of information that have been confirmed. First, the flying sickle kick technique, blood armor technique, and improved 5-element escape technique used by Konoha shinobi on the battlefield are all his work. Second, he is Orochimaru's disciple. He has established a technical development department and is doing secret research every day. Third, this limb reattachment technique has a deep relationship with Nara Shintaku. We guess that he proposed the framework and then Orochimaru filled in the content. The words fell. Everyone showed an incredible expression. Any of these 3 points is a heavy news of earthquake level. Now, it is concentrated on one person. What a joke. This kid called Nara Shintaku is too perverted. Is the information confirmed? Yes, no matter how you look at it, it's too outrageous. Can a 7-year-old child really do so many things? You said 17 years old is a bit credible. Even Senju Tobarama took decades to develop one technique after another. Everyone couldn't believe it. Inoki also looked surprised and frowned and said, "Can the authenticity of the information be guaranteed?" Third-generation adults repeatedly confirmed, "It is true." Umbu Ninja smiled bitterly and said, "We even verified it from Sand Shinobi. The last time they were defeated, they suffered from the blood suit technique and the flying sickle kick technique. Now Raza and Yukura are still imprisoned in Konoha's prison." The office was quiet for a while. Everyone's expressions changed, their eyes flickered. They also remembered the defeat of Sunagakure a year ago. Leader Raza mastered Magnet style, Deputy Commander Yukura mastered Scorch style. Such two powerful bloodline ninjas were actually wiped out by the Konoha troops without commander-level ninjas. At that time, they mocked and disdained. Now it seems that it is not Sand Shinobi's fault. It is Konoha that has become too strong. In this way, the failure of the Yellow Earth Jonin is understandable. Yes, limb reattachment. Konoha seriously injured can return to the battlefield 100%, which is equivalent to a steady stream of troops. No wonder they defeated us without reinforcements. It is because we lack intelligence. The Jonin said so. Hearing these words, Inoki's face looked much better. Huangtu was his son. Huangtu failed, and he was also ashamed. "Okay, don't worry about that brat Huangtu." Inoki knocked on the table to attract everyone's attention, and said, "The question now is, how to fight the next war." The Jonin fell into deep thought. For a long time. Only then did someone hesitate and said, "Perhaps, we can send the information to Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi?" Limb reattachment, the value of this technique is obviously great. It should prompt the two villages to make up their minds and send troops to attack. Good suggestion. All the Jonin listened and nodded in agreement. They, the Rock Shinobi, are not like the Sand Shinobi. They have enough foundation to establish the second and third camp defense lines. But how can they be the only one to be beaten? Let the friends in the neighboring village explore the way. Okay, let's do it. Inoki made the decision and looked at the Umbu Ninja. "You take action immediately." "Yes." The Umbu Ninja bowed and accepted the order. That night, Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi received information from Iwagakure. The information said that Konoha had a ninjutsu development monster named Nara Shintaku. He was only 8 years old this year, but he had already developed the blood suit technique and the flying sickle leg technique, and improved a large number of 5 elements escape techniques. At the same time, he also participated in the development of the limb reconstruction technique. This technique can restore a disabled ninja to a healthy body. TSK, a life full of loopholes. The third Raikage sneered, "Inoki is getting worse as he grows older." The confidants in the office nodded when they heard this. Pushing everything on a child, he is really good. To cover up the defeat on the battlefield, they can say anything. "I believe that Nara Shintaku is a genius, but it's a bit funny to say that he developed all those techniques. An 8-year-old child is at most a ninja, right? He's not even as good as White Fong's son." The attitude of the crowd was the same as that of the third Raikage. They didn't believe it at all. They knew about the blood suit technique, the flying sickle technique, and the improved 5 elements escape technique. But they didn't believe that it was developed by an 8-year-old child. Kirigakure. The third Mizukage looked at the information with a strange expression. "Has Inoki lied without any bottom line to get us out?" In the office. After reading the information, a group of Mist Shinobi high-level people also had strange expressions. It seems that Huangtu's capture has stimulated him. "You feel the pressure. The camp was wiped out in 5 days. With such a big loss, Inoki must have been unable to sleep. To be honest, Konoha has become much stronger. It's not a big problem. We are Mist Shinobi overseas. Can't he attack us across the sea?" The senior management of Mist Shinobi was calm. The third Mizukage listened to them, nodded slightly, and said, "That makes sense. We don't need to rush. Let Cloud Shinobi and his group of barbarians test it first." Mist Shinobi made a decisive decision to keep the troops in place. Konoha village. A jubilant atmosphere. Many older ninjas had a trance on their faces. This was the first time that the war did not bring gloom, but brought passion and desire. Many young ninjas participated in the war enthusiastically. Apply to go to the battlefield and make achievements. Have you heard that the village hospital can even make broken intestines? So powerful? Of course. This is the technique created by that Shintaku-kun. That's right, as long as you still have a breath, I will make back any missing parts for you. Shoo, you can go to the battlefield without any worries. Yeah, at worst, I will die, but if I don't die, I will have everything. The craze for joining the war is widely spread among the young ninja community. Gradually, public opinion has shifted from resisting war to actively joining the war. Episode 75, 50% stage reward, Hōgyoku research materials. Public opinion is accumulating imperceptibly. Waiting for the day of the explosion. Nara clan land. Home. Isolation barrier. Nara Shintaku looked at the empty space in front of him. The system panel that only he could see was revealed. Current template, Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Development progress, 50%. Ding dong. Congratulations host for receiving 50% of the interim reward, Hōgyoku research data. Hōgyoku? Nara Shintaku was slightly startled, and a look of surprise flashed across his face. Suddenly, a lot of information about Hōgyoku emerged in his mind. In the Shinigami world, Hōgyoku is an inescapable item, entangled with the fate of countless people, just like the wood style in the Hokage world. This item was created by Urahara Kasuke and Aizen, respectively. In the original story, Aizen took away the semi-finished Hōgyoku made by Urahara Kasuke, and made a complete Hōgyoku with the semi-finished product in his hand. The complete Hōgyoku has the mysterious power to realize the host's wishes and push the host to the next level of evolution. According to the description in Shinigami's original work, Aizen is not the creator of Hōgyoku. In the Rukia episode, when he got the semi-finished Hōgyoku made by Urahara Kasuke, he exclaimed that the name Hōgyoku was well chosen. At the same time, there are various hints in the subsequent episodes. Hōgyoku is an ancient research, and Shinigami has been researching it a long time ago. Later, it was inherited by Urahara Kasuke and Aizen and realized. After the incident with Aizen, Neri also did research. Nara Shintaku sorted out the knowledge in his mind, and thought flashed in his eyes, muttering, he found some. Urahara Kasuke's research materials. After verification, Kurotsuchi Mayuri believes that the conception of Hōgyoku originated from the Soul King. When the Soul King was born, everything was in a chaotic and ambiguous state. There was no progress, no retreat, and the boundaries between life and death were confused. It was the power of the Soul King that demarcated the three realms and established the order of the world. Nara Shintaku touched his chin with a thoughtful expression. The information of this reward was very huge. So much so that his brain, which was now sage transformed, needed some time to digest and absorb it. Some Shinigami desire the power of the Soul King, desire to transcend their own boundaries. Their research created the prototype of Hōgyoku. Urahara Kasuke inherited this research and excavated the original power from the life of the individual. This origin carries the ambiguity of the original chaos. Ambiguity means that the boundaries become blurred. In a state of chaos and ambiguity, it becomes easy to break the boundaries. Nara Shintaku couldn't help showing an expression of admiration when he said this. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's research is detailed and meticulous. With only some remaining data, he analyzed the nature, trigger mechanism, and implementation mechanism of the collapse force. This is a researcher who is not inferior to Aizen and Urahara Kasuke. Then the question is. Nara Shintaku closed the system panel, touched his chin, and fell into deep thought. Can I rely on this data to create the Hōgyoku of the Hokage world? The role of Hōgyoku is to realize desires and help the host cross the realm. The implementation mechanism of this role is limited to two. One is to make the cage of order vague and ambiguous, the other is to provide information for evolution. The clever thing is that these two mechanisms are related to the power of the Soul King. The Soul King established order and ended chaos. At the same time, the Soul King is the source of power for Shinigami, Quincy, Fullbring, etc. Consider these two conditions comprehensively. Suddenly, a word came to Nara's mind. Wood style. The wood style of the first Hokage obviously meets the requirements very well. It is the source of chakra power. Black Zetsu mentioned that the wood style of the first generation is the power of the sacred tree. It also contains the information of evolution, the power of Ashura, sage body. As for breaking the cage of order, the erosion of wood style cells is a kind of breaking behavior. It's just that it's too violent, which makes people unbearable. As long as the power of wood style cells is hedged with high-level power of opposite nature, the risk can be eliminated, and the power of the universe and chakra can be guided out, allowing people to evolve towards the sixth path level. Uchiha Madara said that Hashirama cells merged with his power to guide the potential of chakra, thus awakening Rinnegan, so the power of the universe is hidden in everyone's chakra, but most people don't have the key to unlock it. Very good. Wood style cells are a lower-level substitute for the power of the Soul King. Using the development method of Hōgyoku, developing wood style cells should be able to get something similar to Hōgyoku, right? Nara Shintaku stretched, took out a scroll, picked up a pen and started writing. Not long after, he quoted classics and filled 5 scrolls. After writing, Nara Shintaku didn't delay and went directly to the Technical Development Department to find Orochimaru. Technology Development Department. At night. In a brightly lit laboratory. Wood style cells? Orochimaru looked at the scroll, and the first sentence at the beginning made his eyelids jump. The invincible wood-style power of the first generation has always been the research target of the village. Even the younger brother of the first generation, the second generation Senju Tobarama, is also doing experiments in secret. But many failures and the moral pressure of human experiments make this research a taboo. Can't get over it? Nara asked calmly. No, about the Nawaki incident, when Sand Shinobi launched the spy, I took the opportunity to clean up everyone. Orochimaru's eyes flashed with a cold light, shook his head and said, I'm just surprised that you would study wood style. Surprised? Nara looked puzzled. Yes, wood style is just a blood limit, and it is not of much value to us now. Orochimaru shook his head. Nara couldn't help but smile. Now, it was Orochimaru's turn to be confused. He asked in confusion, what's so funny? I thought you had already discovered it. Wood style is obviously abnormally strong, beyond the scope of bloodline limit. Nara Shintaku paused and smiled, I'll give you a hint. In mythology, there is a monster that destroys the world, which was sealed by the Sage of Six Paths. Orochimaru's eyelids twitched, and his face was weird and asked, you don't mean to say that wood style is that monster, right? Yes, wood style is part of the power of that monster. Nara Shintaku affirmed. Swish. Orochimaru couldn't sit still anymore and stood up instantly. He looked at Nara in great surprise, and asked in a trembling voice, you mean, the monster is still alive? Wait, you said before that the owner of chakra is in a dormant state. Could it be, that monster is the owner of chakra? When Orochimaru said this, goosebumps appeared all over his body. A trembling feeling of revealing the fog of history filled his heart. Alright, teacher Orochimaru. Nara smiled with praise. Hiss. Orochimaru took a breath and felt his whole body tremble, as if there was an electric current. I said before that myths are true. You can guess again, where is the monster now? Nara said with a smile. Orochimaru's eyes shrank suddenly. He thought of the answer almost instantly. In myths and legends, the Sage of Six Paths created the moon and sealed the goddess Kaguya in the moon. The moon? The goddess of the rabbit? Orochimaru swallowed his saliva and said in a hoarse voice, is it on, husband? Yes, it's the moon in the sky. Nara's eyes were dim, and I can tell you that the goddess of the rabbit is also the mother of the Sage of Six Paths, but the mother and son had a disagreement, so the Sage of Six Paths and his brother joined forces to seal the mother, the goddess of the rabbit. Orochimaru's eyes widened, and he felt a current rushing straight to his head. Another huge secret. The monster that almost destroyed the world, the so-called goddess of the rabbit, turned out to be the mother of the Sage of Six Paths. Thousands of years ago, how many magnificent events happened in this world? Orochimaru's heart was suddenly surging. The look he gave Nara changed again. If I had previously suspected that Nara was a ninja in history, who had accidentally found the way to immortality. Now, Orochimaru doesn't think so. He is sure that Nara was active in the era before the ninja clan, and witnessed, or even participated in the historical battle between the Sage of Six Paths and the goddess of the new. In other words, Nara was already a powerful existence thousands of years ago. It was just that he was injured in the war. He fell into a lower realm and lost his power. He was reincarnated to this day and began to rebuild. This also explains why Nara did not have medical knowledge and ninjutsu knowledge at the beginning. Because this is a super ancient existence that was active on Earth before the appearance of ninjas. By the way, the younger brother of the Sage of Six Paths is named Otsutsuki Hamura, and his descendants are today's Hyuga clan. Nara said. What? Hyuga? Orochimaru was stunned for a moment, a little bit unbelievable. Isn't the bloodline of this family too weak? Although it is the second largest eye technique, it is completely inferior to Sharingan. Are the descendants of Otsutsuki Hamura so weak? Facing Orochimaru's doubts, Nara Shintaku nodded and shook his head. The Byakugan of the Hyuga clan is indeed weak, but it is only because it has not evolved. Bygone is just a primary performance. There are Tenseigan and Pure Eye above. Because of Caged Bird, Bygone went to the path of evolution first. Wiliang Shintaku explained. Tenseigan? Pure Eye? Orochimaru looked dazed, muttering, with a light in his eyes. Obviously, he was having a storm of thoughts. The information provided by Nara Shintaku was like a rope, connecting all the things he had been confused about in the past. The truth of history was clearly revealed in an instant. You should digest it well. Nara stood up and left the laboratory. I will come to see you tomorrow. Okay. Orochimaru took a deep breath and nodded. He really needed some time to digest what he just learned. One night passed in a flash. For Orochimaru, his current physique no longer needed to sleep. So the long night was just right for calming down. When the sun rose in the east, Orochimaru had adjusted his mood, read the scroll left by Nara, and went to find the third Hokage. Hokage building. Hokage office. In. You want Shodai cells? The third Hokage looked at Orochimaru in surprise, and couldn't help frowning. Why? This is a prohibited research. Orochimaru, do you also covet the power of wood style? As he spoke, the third Hokage's eyes became sharp. Like two knives, they shot straight at Orochimaru. Hee. Orochimaru chuckled and said, Teacher, I don't need any wood style with my current strength. What do you mean? The third Hokage raised his eyebrows in surprise. Orochimaru stretched out a palm directly. 5 fingers spread out. Whoosh. The complex sealing technique was completed in an instant. A closed barrier space appeared on Orochimaru's palm. What a high level of sealing technique. The third Hokage's eyes flashed with surprise, but just like this, he couldn't convince him. He was about to say something. Swoosh. A touch of white light lit up in the barrier. This light trembled violently, containing terrible power. Just showing it made the third Hokage tremble with fear, and his instinctive warning of danger was crazy. Is this dust style? The third Hokage looked at the white light for a few times, and his face changed in horror. Orochimaru, you learned Inoki's dust style? Impossible, this is the secret bloodline elimination of rock shinobi. How did you do it? The third Hokage looked up and looked at Orochimaru in shock. Teacher, the so-called bloodline elimination is nothing more than the fusion of the power of 3 nature transformations. Orochimaru smiled lightly and casually. In essence, it is also a kind of bloodline limit. My research has long surpassed the bloodline limit and began to explore the essence of chakra. Even the mountain of sage mode has been conquered by me. The third Hokage took a breath and looked at Orochimaru in disbelief. When did his disciple go so far? So, teacher, wood style is just an interesting experiment for me. You don't have to worry that I will do something irrational. Orochimaru smiled and said leisurely. The third Hokage's eyes froze. He suddenly had a feeling that Orochimaru had broken free from the shackles on his body. Just like a kite flying in the sky, because it flew too high, it broke the string on the ground and turned into a free bird. Where is Shintaku? The third Hokage suddenly thought of Nara Shintaku and asked hurriedly, is he on the same path as you? Teacher, you should have noticed that my changes began to appear after I accepted Shintaku as my disciple. Orochimaru looked at the third Hokage dimly and said meaningfully, Shintaku, but he has gone further than me, the teacher. If you say that I am on a high mountain, then Shintaku has already stepped into the sky. Boom. The third Hokage's heart was shocked and he couldn't believe his ears. Stepped into the sky? Shintaku is only 8 years old. Has he left the earth and reached a height that everyone looks up to? For a long time. Orochimaru left the Hokage office with a smile and got what he wanted. Although, with his current strength and influence, he doesn't need to go through the third Hokage to get the wood style cells. But who made me your disciple, Hiruzen-sensei? Orochimaru stood on the street, looked back at the top floor of the Hokage building, and whispered, I don't want to hurt your feelings. But, I will eventually go to another path. Today is my showdown with you. Orochimaru took a deep look, retracted his gaze, and left. In the Hokage's office. The third Hokage stood in front of the French window, feeling stern, and cold sweat oozing from his forehead. Just now on the street, Orochimaru's gaze. It seemed to penetrate the one-way mirror of the French window and fell directly on him. Orochimaru, and Shintaku. The third Hokage had a complicated expression and let out a long breath. He was confused and at a loss about the showdown of his disciple. This afternoon, the Hokage's office was filled with faint sighs. At the same time, the Senju clan's home, Tsunade's home. Long time no see, Tsunade. Nara Shintaku came to visit with gifts. TSK. Tsunade glanced at him, curled her lips, and looked indifferent. Before Nara Shintaku spoke, other Senju members scolded him. Tsunade, don't be impolite. Shintaku-kun rarely comes, please treat him well. You look like you want to sit here, have you forgotten the etiquette and posture of Senju? Shintaku-kun, please come in. Tsunade has been bored recently and a little indulgent, she is not like this usually.